Hello, everybody. Welcome to Webinar Wednesday. My name is Martijn Lofvers. I'm Chief Trendwatcher of Supply Chain Media. I'm also the Editor-in-Chief of Supply Chain Movement. That's a huge group on LinkedIn, but also European Quarterly Magazine, in print still, but also digitally. And we have a bi-weekly newsletter. Today, we're going to talk about diversity of thought on AI in supply chain. It will be International Women's Day coming Saturday. So that's the reason why we have this webinar and this topic. So with me, I have two experts. So next to me is Melanie Salter. She has a long history in. I see that. I have a problem. I think. Failed to start. I have to. Let me check. So I got a message that we are not live. Just let me, maybe, I will put on my camera. I will check in the back office. And maybe, Melanie, you could introduce yourself. And I will be back within 30 seconds.
Well, I could be talking to you, Ella, or it could be to you. But hello, everyone. My name's Melanie Salter. I'm the Director of Supply Chain Research at Boom. Boom is a global community for women in supply chain. Are we live, Martijn?
Yeah, we were live. I got a message from my colleague that we are live. I got a disturbing message that we aren't live, but then again, we are. So, Melanie, please introduce yourself again. So you have a huge background in supply chain planning and in operations research. So
So my background, because it becomes relevant. I stumbled into supply chain by accident just after I graduated, working on the downstream optimization engine for Shell worldwide for all of their retail products, and that's where I discovered that I'm good at operations research. I can design algorithms. So I come from a very techie background, very very nerdy, I always say. And that was how I came to supply chain. But then it hooked me completely. And I've been in supply chain management for 25 years. And I pretty much stayed in the complex problem solving area because that's where my real gift is, until I made this surprise leap into looking at the intersect of diversity, equity, inclusion with supply chain. And I do a lot of research now as well into how to make supply chains more inclusive. Okay. So talking about diversity of thought is really why I'm here.
Yeah. We will talk about Boom and what Boom is doing as a community. So next to Melanie, you have Ella Cullen. You have born in New Zealand, raised on a farm, and then now moved over to Europe. And you are co-founder and chief marketing officer of Minespider. So welcome. So what is your background? So why did you come over to Europe? And what is your background?
Originally to study, to escape New Zealand, to get off the island. But no, I've been working in technology for over 12 years, I would say now. 7 of those already since we founded Minespider, which is focused on minerals and metal supply chains. We founded it with the idea that we could solve the issue of conflict minerals in supply chains. And these days have obviously broadened our goals to, tracking, reducing carbon emissions, improving efficiencies and so forth across the metals, mining and battery spaces.
Yeah, we'll talk about it later because you're also using a lot of AI. So some practical things. This webinar will be recorded. I won't edit the first part that we weren't live, but we are. So we will also send it out on YouTube, and the presentation will be made available as a PDF, downloadable. So there are 2 ways to connect with us live. So you see the chat functionality on the right-hand side. You can ask or you can comment on all kind of questions, but I will track the Q&A function down below. So you have 2 small text bubbles. So if you have any questions for Ella or Melanie, please use the Q&A functionality. If the questions are in line of our conversation, I will ask this question immediately. If not, we have a Q&A at the end. And next to our Q&A, we also have an extra 30 minutes afterwards. So you can sit down with the 3 of us at table 1, and a kind of Zoom meeting will open up, so we can have a chat if you want to know more about the stuff we are discussing, or otherwise. All right, Melanie, maybe you can explain a bit more about Boom before we go into the topic.
Thanks, Martijn. So yeah, I'd say we're a global community for women in supply chain. From my own history, I was always very much the only woman in the room and the only woman in the boardroom. So I know that it can be quite challenging, that, and just building a network of support I always say Boom is the organization I wish had existed when I was earlier in my career, because it would have made an enormous difference to where I am. But I have this immense privilege now, is that I get to support this community of women. We've got over 1,000 women worldwide. We're in 66 countries as of this week. Someone joined us in Kazakhstan, which is just very, very cool. But what's lovely about that is that we have, our content, we publish content, I'll come onto it. It's by the community, for the community, but we get this lovely global perspective on what's going on in supply chain around the world. And we are industry agnostic, and we welcome everybody from whichever level of the hierarchy you're at, from CSCO to entry level. And as I say, we've got this extraordinary resource library. We've been publishing twice a week for the last 6 years. So we've got over 400 articles, videos, how-tos, polls, just this wealth of information about supply chain, on role modeling, on professional development. And yeah, it's a lovely thing. I'm very, very happy to be here.
What is the most asked question when members come in as a member?
They always say, I just want to meet other women in supply chain. It's the recurring theme. It's like, can I meet some more women, please?
Okay. So by the way, I'm also the leader of a group, Women in Supply Chain. I'm the only male member of this LinkedIn group, and the rest are all women in supply chain, actual women in supply chain, so supply chain planners, directors, etc. So similar stuff. So there are a lot of women in supply chain, luckily more and more.
Absolutely.
But I still want to meet them, and they need Boom, obviously.
Yeah, it's a great community. It's a great supportive community.
You mentioned the surveys and the content you are creating.
So yes, so every year since 2020, we have run a survey. So it's hey, these things are going on. How do the actual supply chain practitioners feel about it? What's your point of view? So with a heavy focus on, the people side of things, on talent. So you can see we've gone from career progression to post-pandemic workplace to what do we need to succeed, next generation. And, another reason I'm here speaking today is the latest one from last year was around artificial intelligence. What's the feeling out there about AI? How's everyone feeling? What's happening with training? What's the talent pipeline look like? All of these questions we put out to the global community, and we'll be going through some of those questions today.
But in general, you are asking both women and men in supply chain these kind of questions.
Yeah, all genders, every industry, everywhere in the world. As wide a data set as possible.
So we'll talk about later about the diversity of thought. Ella, maybe you can explain a bit more about Minespider.
Sure, I'd be happy to. Can't wait to join Boom, by the way, Melody.
Yeah.
So we've been around, as I mentioned, for over 7 years now, looking to build more transparent, compliant supply chains. Maybe if we pop to the next slide. One of our main tools, we have two main tools these days, which are digital product passports and battery passports. Essentially, we track metals, right? That's what we do for a variety of reasons. Most of them compliance, but also a lot of companies these days, a lot of mining clients are essentially looking to be a pioneer in sustainability. They want to do things better, they want to do things differently, and they want to communicate that information using these kind of digital tools. Yeah. So we are built on the blockchain, and that was always one of the key reasons why people like to work with us. And then I think in a second I'll answer why blockchain and AI are interesting together. But, we know supply chains are extremely complex, extremely opaque. You often have to work with people that can be your competitor at the same time. So blockchains themselves deal with that kind of information really well. They're immutable. The decentralized nature of the data can really help people to collaborate in these kind of complex competitive environments. And I think a lot of people ask, okay, so how does AI fit into that? Yeah. And blockchain has those, core focuses, and AI is really, for us, an incredible new tool, because the biggest struggle people have in supply chains and traceability is how to capture and structure their data. They have data silos in their companies. They have tons of data and no insights. We see this all the time. So if we maybe skip one slide ahead, what we see at least in the EU, and obviously globally, but specifically we know the EU loves regulation. There's a huge amount of regulation popping up. some of the big ones that we focus on at the moment is the EU battery regulation, which is obviously making sure our batteries perform, that they can be recycled, that they have less of a carbon footprint, for instance. And this can be incredibly overwhelming to capture data to comply with these regulations. So this is kind of our technology and how we support with this.
May I have a question before we get to the AI part? Digital product passport. I think you are applying this in the mining industry, but look at fashion. I think everybody's looking. Where's my garments are coming from, etc. So I think the digital product passport will be more applicable in the next 5 to 10 years in all kind of products in all kind of industries.
Yeah, absolutely. No, we did some fashion, textile traceability projects, and coffee, wood, plastics. I mean, every single product that you buy eventually will have a QR code on it. And this is also thanks to eco-design regulation, which basically specifies in the EU that will be necessary.
Maybe a nerdy question from our side, because 5 to 10 years ago, we were all happy and hyped about blockchain. It could be applied everywhere. But then again, it didn't fly that much. I spoke to some companies in the coffee business. It was too cumbersome to apply it. Will there be a blockchain revival, do you think? Or do you have other ways of tracking this to have a digital product passport?
So I think crypto and blockchain technologies are still very much popular and used at large. I think, unfortunately, the real world use cases of blockchain perhaps dropped off a bit. Like in 2018, we had a lot of remittance startups, remittance payments, banking the unbanked, supply chain traceability on the blockchain, these kind of real world applications. And I think, unfortunately, because the VC money very much moved into how do we make a quick buck to some degree, then we saw the whole DeFi realm, decentralized finance realm, became far more popular. So blockchain technology has boomed. It's a huge industry. Obviously, we have NFTs, we have all kinds of tokens and so forth. In my mind, though, it unfortunately started to drop a lot of those real world use cases because they're not as profitable, let's say.
Yeah.
The consumer touch points are far easier in terms of trading NFTs and so forth than they are in using these kind of more complicated products. So as you say, it added a layer of complication, and I think unfortunately sometimes that kind of prevented startups from adopting it at the start or keeping it.
Yeah. So, but blockchain is still a technology, whereas a digital product passport is an application of different kind of technologies. Exactly. So maybe you can explain the AI part in your environment.
Sure. So my pleasure. So as I said, for us, data is king. And data is also the biggest problem for adoption. So we also work a lot with batteries. As I said, we have battery passports now that track battery metals also as they get recycled and go into second life applications. But everyone was like, how do I create a battery passport? What data does it need? And so we created, and you can see maybe it's a bit small on the right side here, we have now a co-pilot in our battery passports where you just upload whatever information you have on hand. And this co-pilot will basically structure it and fill out the battery passport for you, battery passport that is compliant with EU regulation. And it will just highlight what it needs you to manually enter or what it's missing. So this is how AI is really helping us to streamline the customer experience and to make compliance a lot easier. Maybe a more fun one that we do in-house now is having an AI coworker. So in Slack, our CTO is very obsessed with AI, obviously, which is amazing to have in your company. So we're launching this week actually an AI-powered assistant in Slack, so that we can interface, everyone in the team can interface with this assistant. Still looking for a name for them, by the way, so ideas are welcome. And they have the knowledge base of the company, so they're connected to Confluence, Jira, and eventually things like Google Drive as well. And I can imagine obviously it's a two-way street that as we chat with it more, it builds knowledge about the company. And I think this can really give us a competitive advantage, even as a very small startup, to have this kind of knowledge base. I spend 10 minutes looking on Google Drive trying to find one freaking presentation or one document that I've lost and I can't remember how I named it. So I think this can help everyone at a small scale.
So what was the first prompt or the first question you did?
I haven't tested it yet, so it's going live I think tomorrow. Yeah. Yeah, but it'll definitely be something about marketing. Obviously we have a gazillion press releases and things like this. So to write a new press release as a first draft, and then obviously we get, our marketing team to perfect it. But I think it just gets the ball rolling. That's the idea. And it speeds up the process, obviously.
So Melanie, what should this assistant be called? Do you have any ideas?
Please, we'd love to hear ideas.
Let's make it a gender neutral one that you can't tell the gender of. So I was thinking like Charlie or something, because that covers both, all genders, let's say, because, there's a whole conversation had about, they're generally given female names because it's more submissive, which, so, make it so, and it'd be quite interesting to see if gender is projected onto it, because it is genderless after all. So it's quite,
I love that. I might actually poll the team for names.
Just
See
make
what if people think it's male or female to start with is very interesting, right?
Yeah, read Murderbot. I'm just saying this. It's a great novella. It talks about this whole thing about names. Anyway,
No. I was thinking of Miney, because you have Minespider and Miney. Anyway,
Miney.
I brought gender in, but that's what I'm here for.
Yeah. You're right.
That's what we're here for.
And maybe you can explain a bit about some cases you did with Minespider,
Sure.
And I also want to know, where you're headed to. In the mining industry, in the battery industry, what's next?
Yeah, so these are more customer and client facing projects that we're working on. So with ABB, we're doing a repair and replace system, which is essentially looking at motors and drives that need to be replaced. And they would have a QR code on it, and you would have your phone scan it and connect to the DPP and actually have a conversation with it. And that's an example on the right side. So we interviewed obviously maintenance teams for this, and they love the idea to be able to talk to their products. You're like, hey, when was the last time you were repaired? What was that repair? Who repaired you? And at the end of the day, if it's absolutely broken, like, how do I fix it? How do I replace you? What's the most efficient way? What kind of model do I need to replace you with? Like, there's actually a lot of decision making, obviously, that is streamlined by this kind of AI system. So repair teams love that one. And on the Recirculate side, so Recirculate is a huge EU-funded project that we're part of, looking to enhance second life applications of batteries, so to stop them from hitting the recycling or waste bins so quickly. And this is also first of its kind. We're doing AI roboticized dismantling of batteries. So when you have lithium-ion batteries, they have a high risk of fires because they're very flammable, the substances inside. So this is actually using AI to basically measure and get all the dimensions of the pack and direct the robot on how to dismantle it safely without any human intervention. And so we're about to release the academic paper on that one, results on that one. But I think we see an extremely diverse range of applications of AI in supply chain, obviously, because supply chain, as we know, is a diverse, field that covers every industry in the world and every stage of the, production to manufacturing, obviously. So I think from our side, when people come to us and want to start this kind of project, we generally start with a very narrow use case. First off, even better is to start with a data strategy. So what is the data that you think you need to capture in order to be competitive? Who in the company has access to that data right now? And how can we start to capture that, put it in some kind of repository, some kind of database, in order to start to be able to think about building some kind of AI system and utilizing that data better?
Yeah. So I created an ecosystem of household products. So basically, we have seen supply chains changing from linear to circular ecosystems, etc. So to map out all your stakeholders in your environment, in your ecosystem, and you get the regulators and the recycling companies, etc. So map it out.
Yeah.
So I tried it with ChatGPT 1 year ago, and it failed. But now with DeepSeek, you can actually create visualization of your ecosystem to start with, internally, externally, and then you have a better overview where to start with this kind of circularity programs, and also with what kind of repositories do you have. So I think also the start is to visualize your data repositories, etc., and the different kind of companies in your ecosystem to have a better feeling where to start.
Very true. To figure out where your competitive advantage could lie and how to get there, right? And data will get you there if you're a technology company or if you're any kind of company these days.
Yeah. So let's talk about AI more in depth. So this is an overview also generated by Scraping Technology, by a German startup or scale up now. Basically, what they have been doing since the last 5 years, since 2020. They have scraped the transcriptions of the calls by CEOs and CFOs of Fortune 500 companies, mostly American. And basically, these are the words the CEOs are using during this conversations, during this analyst calls. And since 2020, supply chain has been there on the right-hand side. It's a log scale, so a lot of mentioning of supply chain. But since the last 1.5 years, a lot of AI was mentioned by the CEOs. And you see AI all over the place. Sustainability is still out there, but more mentioning by AI. I think that's the thing here, and not so much about HR kind of topics. So, Melanie, if you look at this overview, what CEOs are talking about, what is your takeaway?
I mean, I like the way that we've got AI in three out of the 4 quadrants, but what I find interesting is that you've got that data center there in the big and growing in importance. And this really links back to my, my days the years I spent cleaning up data.
Mm-hmm.
And, Ella, you've been talking about data, and that's I always say data is power, because, I've mapped end-to-end data, supply chains. I've looked at the data, I've asked for data, trying to find that end-to-end data, presenting it back to the owners of that data, and they go, no, that's not our data. That's not our data. What are you doing? And then having to go back, they give it to you again. So, that clean data, that single source of truth, it doesn't have to be perfect for AI. I'd still go 80-20 rule always in supply chain, but that talking about data, and finally, I'm hoping that companies are seeing the true value, because it tells you so many stories, even putting AI to one side, just getting clean data tells you most extraordinary stories about your business and where the opportunities lie. And I love that AI is kind of dragging the conversation about data into the 21st century.
Yeah. Ella, what's your observation here?
I actually love that too. I was also focusing on the data center, because we get, it's probably the most common question we get, which is a very new question, right? Which is, where is the data stored? We're typically a SaaS software, and we have like cloud storage, and everyone now wants on-prem data, because there's a lot of concerns globally about data privacy, the cost of data. So I think there's this whole data is also its power, and it's also a currency to some degree, right?
Yep.
So I think the conversations about where you store your data, who has access to your data.
It's the cybersecurity, isn't it? As well, coming in, it's a much bigger conversation.
Yeah, exactly. And I would say blockchain, and we still see crypto there, obviously, use blockchain technology. Blockchain kind of ignited this conversation about who has access to your data, and I think AI has continued that realm, but maybe for more of a cost center as well, because obviously it's much more costly to run in terms of scale. Obviously, for big LLMs, not for the average person. The other thing I think is really interesting on here is agentic AI. And you asked me where we see the future of AI in our company. So for one of these grants, we're building a marketplace, right, to connect up used batteries in the EU to help with the whole end-of-life circular battery supply chain. And our CTO was, when we were talking about this marketplace, was saying, but we don't need an actual marketplace, because in the future, agents will just talk to each other, right? Yeah. I want to sell you a used battery, like my agent will talk to your agent, Martijn, and determine the best price. And if they don't find an agreement, they'll go to Melanie and offer her agent a price. And there will be no interface, right? There would just be these agentic AIs out on a mission to buy and sell a battery in this use case. So I think that's kind of something as a software company to get your head around, that what will be like the interface in the future. Yeah. Will I just chat in my mobile phone on WhatsApp to buy and sell this with my app with my agent? So that's something I'm thinking about a lot in terms of the future of AI.
So when I look at this, you see election upper left and also upper right, and I think when we have this overview for this quarter, there will be Trump all around, that will be about tariffs. So that will change. And, this is AI generated overview of data, CEOs talking about topics. So that's also of interest. I have to talk about the definition of AI, because there's a lot of confusion still, I think. And I've created this overview, because I have an operations research background myself. So in the outer shell, you see AI, the broader sense, and you have the heuristics, the algorithms, the linear programming, that kind of stuff. And zooming in, you get to ChatGPT, and along the way you go to Gen AI with DALL-E and Midjourney and Sora and Claude and what have you. But the main thing here is for supply chain people, and Melanie, you were there. Last decades, they already use advanced planning and scheduling with some sort of AI in it, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's been around since the 50s and 60s, where it was already being used. Then the big, the big change you will know is the advent of the generative AI, which means that just the adoption rate has, is an exponential growth.
Yeah. And maybe, supply chain people think, we are already using AI for 10 or 20 years. And maybe they have to put their head around how to use Gen AI in their field. And maybe that's rethinking stuff, how to plan, etc.
Yeah, I mean, the conversations that we're having is just, well, the exciting thing, if I think about a supply chain network design project, and you've got this terribly complex model, which, people ask questions of, going back to what you're talking about, Ella, where you can actually talk to your model, where you can talk to your supply chain and go, I'm seeing this weird thing. Why? Why is that data point like that? The idea of that is extraordinary. I get super excited. Like, I can talk to my model, and think about all the people that can come in as well. So suddenly there's this, it also democratizes technology in a way as well, because, the CSCO can come in and have a chat with my model too if they want. They don't need to have an incredible knowledge of, whether it's Llamasoft, Ames, whoever it is.
Yeah.
They can come in. So it's, it's really exciting from that. I think a lot of people get that. And at the same time, a lot of people are, there's so much hype, fearful for their job. So it's, swings and roundabouts.
Yeah, we'll talk about it later. Last Friday I got a demonstration by Professor Carlos Cordon from IMD Business School in Lausanne, and he showed me live on a laptop, standalone, with DeepSeek downloaded on it. It was not on the internet, and he had real data from a company. And within 15 minutes, he could create a demand plan and a forecasting module, and also with the steps, what is this engine is doing. So basically, we know IT technologies and managistics from 20 years ago. It was a black box. This thing would optimize your schedule, whatever, but you didn't know how. But now it's opening up. It explains the steps, the algorithm it's using, why, the outliers, the whole lot. Within 15 minutes, you had your own application on a standalone computer with DeepSeek. So now he showed me, and it was amazing what you could do. So I can imagine, a planner has created very complex and intelligent Excel as an they upload some data from, I don't know, Blue Yonder, whatever, and then it's reusing this stuff in its own Excel. And now with a DeepSeek in his engine, he could clarify and explain it to a colleague what it is doing. Create his own application, standalone, contained, not secured, etc. So that's amazing.
But with the visibility, I like that. If you can understand the heuristics and the algorithms working behind it, or if someone can explain it to you, it becomes less of a black box, which is so much of technology is a black box. And to be able to understand the works behind is like super powerful.
So getting to the data of the survey, PwC did a survey in 2023. Basically, women are less optimistic than men about the impacts on AI on their careers. That was in 2023. Melanie, what was your takeaway looking at this?
I don't know. Ella and I were talking about this yesterday.
Yeah.
It's like, why? First of all, we're talking for an entire, half the population of the world. Why are women? Sorry, Ella, I'm going to summarize some of this. It's like, well, there just is not as many women in STEM. We know that. We just need to get more women into science, technology, engineering, and maths. So therefore, there is potentially less uptake, and therefore, potentially a bit more fear about it as well, which is like the one that makes the most sense to me. Ella, what can you add to that? I haven't
Yeah.
stolen your point.
No, I think that was our main conclusion, at least. That and then I guess there are more men developers, male developers, more coders, and they perhaps more men in STEM, more careers that are positively impacted by AI, as in AI can support them to be more efficient. So it makes sense that maybe men have a slightly more optimistic outlook, but we need to change that. We need to continue encouraging women to be in STEM and developers, and also to play with the tools and to, and also, we need to keep creating, as Melanie argues, AIs that do not have biases, so that women are less inclined to use them. Because I think if you're using not GPT, because I've never seen it be biased against women, but maybe another model, and you see it answers something that you find biased, you're going to stop using that model. And that maybe that will even, if this is the first time you ever use an AI tool, it might even stop you from using AI tools for a while. So we have to be incredibly careful that it's not feeding out answers that might turn women off.
Yeah,
but I think hang on a sec, I had an idea.
Yeah.
AI potentially will replace, will take over from all those repetitive tasks, in theory, freeing people up to have more time. However, so many women work part-time, often doing less skilled jobs, because in order to fit in around their caring responsibilities, their unpaid work, but take up a huge amount of their time. Therefore, those less skilled jobs will go, and with it, an awful lot of women who are making an income because they can't work full-time because they have to look after parents or children. So
that's a good point.
That one before,
but my take would be, these women working part-time would have more added value if they are, if they know supply chain, my business, whatever. So they don't need to have these repetitive jobs, because they can add value instantly. They can use their experience better. So I'm not afraid on that side.
That if they're optimistic about AI, then absolutely they can do that, right?
Yeah.
They just need to train.
So basically, they should embrace it, to make sure that they will still have a job, even if it's part-time. And especially in the Netherlands, a lot of women are working part-time, even more men now. But anyway, I think they all should embrace it. Make sure they add still.
It's not to say that they're not. That's not what this data shows. It's more about the optimism. I mean, I think that maybe it talks to the fear behind it. Yeah. Because the media has completely blown it up. It's like, jobs are going to go. You're all going to be able to work. Nobody's going to have a job. I don't think anyone sees that happening for the rest of my career anyway, in the next 20 years or so. So.
No, but my point here is also that, this is a survey from 2023. And I think, things have changed massively already in AI. Yeah. And maybe this figure of yours, Melanie, is showing also a more optimistic part of it.
Yeah, so this is from our research that, referenced back at the beginning, because we do our annual research. And the question is, what impact will AI have on supply chains in the next 3 years? And it's quite important to talk about those. It's the next 3 years. It's not sort of 20 years from now. And it's pretty evenly split between revolutionary and moderate. So some people are saying, oh my goodness, it's going to change everything. So it's like, it's going to have an impact. It's going to have an impact. And I think it's interesting that, that's 80%. So that's a very solid majority, with just 13% saying, well, just don't know yet. And I was genuinely surprised when only 2% got back saying minimal, it's overhyped. But that is potentially my own bias showing, because I do feel overwhelmed sometimes with just the amount of media attention on it. And from a tech background, you talked about blockchain, all the hype around that, and then, but I understand now why AI's different in the uptake is so much faster than any other technology that's come along. I'm using AI at work all the time. It's just really handy.
So what is your opinion on this question, Ella?
Yeah, I mean, I think, with every industrialization, every kind of tech cycle, we've had this fear of replacing humans and so forth. So I think that is very natural and very normal. And business leaders also have to be very mindful of how to upskill workers and to, replace, let's say, grunt labor, and to make sure people actually enjoy their jobs more would be my goal with my team. right? But I think they, yeah, I also think, as Melanie says, it is an exponential jump in AI. And I would say, in this poll, I would say too soon to say.
And you are a chief marketing officer of a company with a digital product passport. Anyway,
I think the impact will be revolutionary. I'm just not sure about the time frame. I don't know if it will be revolutionary in 3 years or in 5. You know, I think Melanie's a bit like more relaxed on the timeline. Our CTO is kind of like, in 1 year's time, you know, everything will, you know, we won't be employed, you know. So I think everybody has a different timeline.
Oh, interesting. You think, okay.
Yeah, it's so I've seen all the different extremes, you know. Will it have a revolutionary impact on supply chains? Absolutely. I think the question for me is always the timeline.
See, I always come back to, I've been in supply chain for 20 odd years, and I'm still sitting in webinar, you know, in conferences, and people are still talking about aligning their KPIs across the silos.
Yeah.
You know, for 20 years, and we're still having that conversation. It's like, I think everybody really ought to have known about that and sorted it out by now, but we're still having, that's why part of me is quite cynical, because I'd say we're a slow moving profession in some ways. Yeah. It's amazing, you know, we kept going through COVID, so we can move fast, we can pivot, but we're still having the same conversations as 20 years ago.
Yeah, you're right. Company adoption is incredibly slow. And we spent our first 5 years as a company just educating people over and over about blockchain, you know, until eventually people were like, okay, we get it. Blockchain's a cool technology for supply chains, you know? And now we're like, finally, we can move on to the actual problems that we were trying to solve, not just the tech. So yeah, you're right. The adoption is so much slower at a company level. And at a personal level, maybe with AI is so much faster. So let's see how that, like, you know, disparity matches up in the end.
That's where my cynicism comes from.
Yeah. But because of the scarcity of labor in supply chain, you know, I don't think that hardly anybody is fearing for their jobs on the short term. So that's my take. So what is your take on this? How pervasive is AI according to your survey, Melanie?
I think there's a lot of appetite for it. You can see 20% of people that we asked, their organizations planning or piloting or plan to use it in the future. Almost 1 in 3 are already using it. We don't have the data to be able to drill down and say how they're using it, whether, you know, is it for supply chain recruitment? Is it just in planning that we've had the technology that we've had for the last 30, you know? So there is appetite, but I think the really shocking one for me was the 27%. So of companies saying, no, we've got absolutely no plans to use AI, which, you know, even at my most cynical, I would be investigating. I would be saying, of course, there's going to be there's an opportunity here. We need to, you know, and thinking, well, the competitive advantage, those people who are getting on the bandwagon early and working out their use cases, they're going to run rings around me. So I find that number quite worrying, really.
Yeah, but these are the laggards, you know. I think a quarter of all companies are laggards anyhow. So, you know, they are waiting it out, you know, and they still have to see, you know, what's happening. So I think, no, I'm not surprised. You know, I'm a bit worried, but I'm not surprised.
It's your own cynicism.
But as I think you said, Melanie, like, you know, I don't think they realize how much AI they already use, or how much their employees use, or how much you know, the team is already using. So I think it's already, the models and the algorithms and everything are still very much in use in a lot of technology and software already. How pervasive, this is more for me is like, are they going to start replacing people anytime soon in their mind, you know, or already today? I guess in the future, yeah. I think if someone would ask, like, you know, are you going to replace people in your team with AI? I would expect the same kind of spread, maybe.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
We didn't ask that question.
I would.
No, we'll have to do another survey in 1 year, whatever.
We just do that on LinkedIn, a single question. It'd be fascinating.
Yeah. Fascinating question.
But you know, if I would be a planner and I have an Excel, you know, and I have Copilot in a secured environment, I would use it. So I think, you know, most of this 32% using AI, you know, are Excel users, and maybe, probably, hopefully, they are using it in Copilot in a secure environment. So that would my suggestion be. But we have to dig deeper to get that kind of information. But maybe you can talk about, the supply chain strategy, and maybe that's also more worrying.
Well, yeah, but Martijn, you and I have talked for hours about supply chain strategies in the past.
Yeah.
And, we always talk about that missing piece about the competitive strategy linking corporate to supply chain. I've spoken to enough companies around the world that don't even have a supply chain strategy. And this really shows that, and we've got 66 people saying, my company just does not have an AI strategy today. I mean, I'm actually surprised that 19% do. 1 in 5 is saying, yeah, my company's got a clear, well-communicated strategy in AI. So it's not surprising. Yeah, it's not. It doesn't surprise me. I think that's all I can really add here.
But 90% is lip service to the CEO, or whoever, or the leader. Even in, I think 2011, McKinsey did a survey, and they surveyed about, the connection between the business strategy and the supply chain strategy, and only 20% or 80%, whatever, similar like this, was a strong relationship between the business and the supply chain strategy. So 80% was misaligned. And we did a survey, I think, 3 years ago in the Netherlands among 175 companies. So that this significant number of respondents. 75% had a misalignment between business strategy and supply chain strategy. So it still haven't changed in the last 10, 15 years. So no, this is similar to what we see. And with AI, it's all the same.
It's also a dangerous realm for companies, right? Because they have now ethics and legal complications, right? Of using AI that they have to be aware of if they use it internally, or if they, even worse off, obviously communicate things to their clients or customers via an AI that are incorrect. And this is something we have a lawyer in our team, that we don't want to. Obviously, we're helping people to comply with regulations. There are multi-million dollar fines if you mess that up. So how do we ensure that, we double check the data, they double check the data, they know that they need to double check the data because it is still generated by, these, as I said, these battery passwords are pre-filled by an AI. So this brings a whole other realm of communication issues, and you need to have a strategy for that as well, right? So it's not only just to have strategy. Well, obviously that would be part of the overall AI strategy, but I would say that a lot of the companies we work with are still on that first part of what is our company legal and ethical idea of AI.
Yeah, I got a lot of questions from the audience. There's someone commenting, they had a conversation last week with someone from the defense industry saying, they won't use data into a data center. I think, but still, you see also things on DeepSeek and on contained terminal, laptop, you can use it. So this legal aspect is very important, but I think that will differ per industry. But
are we gonna dive into these questions now, or is that at the end?
Yeah, there are too many. Otherwise, we won't go through all the slides. I also you also surveyed about the feeling. So Melanie, maybe you can comment on what's the feeling about AI according to your survey.
Well, I think also this, we asked how do you feel about AI? I've got to say it's a lot touchy-feely sort of a question that we normally ask, but going back to what I was talking about the media and the hype about the loss of jobs. So we were genuinely curious. It's like, are you, hence we gave fearful and apprehensive as an option. But only 1% people said they were fearful with the advent of AI, and only 11%, but you've got 70% of people positive or excited. So it was, again, I pleasantly surprised.
Yeah. Apprehension, it could also be in certain industries that they might be thinking about security apart from their own job, but also about security. So we have to dig deeper to have more answers, and probably it's too early now. Maybe in 1 year time, okay, we will have some better answers if we do another survey on this matter, I think.
And on the flip side, we obviously are also going to have a lot of new jobs created, right? With the advent of new technology, we always have a lot of new jobs, which the media doesn't cover. And people will, at least if you do a white collar job, do less boring work, hopefully.
Yeah.
So I think there is a lot to be excited about in that regard.
And I think, there's still, a job or labor scarcity. So a lot of jobs could be more effective, with skip all this Excel work, days and days working in Excel and you're planning, and that could be done in 15 minutes, whatever. That would be amazing, So when I see this planners, how you want to prepare an SNOP meeting, take days, whatever, that could be, compressed in half an hour or whatever. So that would be marvelous. So moving on, we also dig up a recent survey by Boston Consultancy Group. Basically, they are saying, and they did a real large survey among more than 6,000 professionals in 5 countries. You see it here. And basically, the takeaway is here. It's a helper. So you can code faster. You can write code documents way easier. Review my work. Look at SNOP. All these SNOP meetings. A lot of people days scrambling all this data together to get a better overview for the executive for an SNOP meeting. So that's the takeaway here. But more interesting here is 72% of the women, according to the survey, are using Gen AI compared to 66%. I don't know if it's significant. Melanie, what's your take on this?
I don't think it's that big. I mean, it's not that big a difference.
Yeah.
But I was actually watching my 12-year-old son this morning. He was desperately trying to finish his homework, which he started far too late this morning. And he was asking Gen AI questions. And it's like, it's not giving me the question I want, the answer I want. It's like, actually, if you just go to the base data, it gives you the exact answer that you need. So I don't know if it's... Okay, no. I'm basing that on a 12-year-old, but it did make me giggle this morning. It's interesting to see how people use it, how people use it differently. And yeah, I don't think I'm answering this one very well. Ella, over to you.
No,
I'm a 12-year-old.
I guess it was a nice, we love it, an anecdote. I mean, I was giggling because obviously for women, the most important one is efficiency and time management, because we're super multitaskers. And I think we're probably, we've got to open the side, always doing something. My friends tease me because every time I'm like, what is the capital of Somalia? I'm like doing a voice note to GPT, what is the capital of Somalia? So, and I have the action button on my phone, but now I can do it much faster on the new iPhone. So yeah, I think I'm always like learning from GPT on the side. So in that way, it's very much an efficiency tool, but yeah, I think it's very close, obviously, for men and women here.
And maybe that's a huge bias, in the role models, etc. Maybe 10, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, women had to do more administrative jobs, etc. Going further in time.
Still
yeah, I know. I have to be careful. But maybe they see the opportunity to improve that way better than their male colleagues.
Yeah, maybe.
And that's my takeaway from this slide. But but that's so there's something there. But but I think that both women and men can see the benefits of AI according to this data, and foster innovation and creativity. I think that's a very important part. I like come up with some ideas and improve it. Probably is when you ask ChatGPT something about creativity, and the illustrations are horrible, but if they are horrible, then you're already there. Then say, okay, how can I prove it when I do a briefing for an illustrator or whatever, or create something myself? So it triggers something. So that's also my takeaway here.
One of the the negative ones that I have been thinking about is critical thinking. And I read this article, I think it was even an academic study a while ago, that said we have like a cognitive offload to AI tools, right? So basically, like, instead of actually thinking yourself, you're just typing it into an AI and it feeds the answer out to you. And it's kind of encouraging mental laziness if we think about it like that. Sometimes I see that myself, right? I've got to think of a strategy for something for work, and I'll type it in, and usually I would be brainstorming with it. And sometimes I'm just feeling lazy and I'll just take the first thing it writes and put it in the Slack channel, So I think this is something we have to be aware of, especially for people entering the workforce who haven't had years of critical thinking by themselves. And maybe I'm completely wrong. Maybe they'll be much more efficient critical thinkers because they'll have an AI to chat to. But once this is clearly much more intelligent than humans, why would you question the AI's opinion, right? Or if you've never learned to grow up questioning it, like we have, Please,
Melanie?
Can I jump in? Because this is
Yeah.
a conversation that I've made a mental note to have a conversation with my 12-year-old about it tonight, because he was taking it as read, and it's just like, oh, it's in AI, that must be the answer. And this is, part of other research that we've done in Boom is this need, because we did a next generation talent survey a couple of years ago, and critical thinking was one of the key skills that people who have been in this industry longer say are missing from the generation coming up.
Wow.
And we had an academic speaking with us, Jake Dean, just great guy from a US university. And he says, well, now what they do, they're teaching critical thinking in the supply chain, as part of core curriculum now. And one of the tasks he gives his students is they give them a subject. They say, go away, write this essay using AI, and then I want you to critically take it apart.
Nice.
And I think that is a brilliant, brilliant thing. And that's, that's what I'm going to be telling my 12-year-old today. You've got to go back and question it. And, we can talk about, we haven't even touched on data bias and also the diversity of thought making these, who's designing this software.
No.
Have you got the best software? But I think we're coming on to that, aren't we, Martijn?
Yeah. So I created ripple effects, cause and effects visualizations of COVID, Ukraine, leading to all kinds of effects, bullwhips, etc. So I created visual ripple effects out of this, and I tried first with ChatGPT to do that, and ChatGPT failed miserably a year ago. But now DeepSeek is way better in reasoning cause and effect. So now you get to the point that you can create mind maps with cause and effects in DeepSeek, etc. And then you can have a look at it, and then you have to ask yourself, is this a cause or an effect? So basically, if you have this kind of visualization, I'm hoping and I'm expecting this will help the younger generation to be more critical about how to use this application. What does it say? And even, super logic things about causes and effects, you can visualize and train the younger generation with it. So I think this will advance in the next year.
One of our Boom members made a lovely point. She said that, you're using some tech with AI in it. Who designed that tech? What biases would that tech want to build in? And you've got to ask that, because there's no legislation yet.
No.
There's nothing, there's no, compliance around it yet. So for every piece of tech that you buy with AI in it, what would that company selling it to you want to build into it? Because you don't have that visibility of it. Most of them, it is a black box.
Yeah.
You think, what's my tech supplier giving me and why?
Yeah.
What should I be looking out for?
You can even imagine a future where you kind of have like tribes or almost political party AIs.
Yeah.
You find your voice, you find your community, and you want reinforcement of those ideas.
I think we've got that already. I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
On an AI scale, it's a much scarier. If you talk to it all day long, it's a much scarier idea.
So Melanie, the last slide about your survey. So are teams ready for AI?
Yeah. No, not really. Or people don't feel they are. We were talking about this earlier. There's the democratization of technology. AI means that you don't need to be so technologically ready. You should be able to chat to your supply chain network model. So you don't necessarily need the skills that you've got. If, however, you want to be one of those people doing the critical thinking, looking at the results that AI are giving you and saying, what are the questions I should be asking? Then this is worrying, because we all need to develop these new skill sets to be able to question the results, and not have the lazy thinking that Ella was talking about. So yeah, it is worrying.
And Ella, you talked about the available data. Do companies need a lot of data, and maybe they are fearing we don't have enough data, so we are not ready? as a team we are not ready as a company?
So actually, most companies have so much more data than they realize. It's just not structured, it's not organized. So yeah, the first thing you kind of do before you even think about employing AI technologies is just building a little knowledge base. Structuring all your data internally, collecting it all, figuring out what insights you want to start getting. Imagine I want to figure out, okay, how many product passports do we send per year? What are the main pain points of the clients that use our product passports? Is it for sustainability branding? Are they wanting their minerals that go out there to be recognized that they come from a clean mine? And therefore we can focus more on that area, or is it just a compliance? And therefore we should continue to develop our tools in in a way that makes compliance super easy. So maybe if I focus on a few data points like that, and then I'm like, take a step back, how do I get those data points? So this is something we do all the time in Minespider and marketing as well. And I think that's just at a high level strategic that's super important. At the level of all people and all teams, it's just about finding tools and playing with them at this point. I love what Melanie said about it's democratizing use. You don't have to be a coder or have any kind of technical skills. I downloaded GPT on both of my parents' phone, and I said, every time you want to ask Google a question, just click on this icon and write in this chat box instead. Just start playing with it, see what answers it gives you. Just, don't be afraid of new technologies. I have a friend who's super into the AI world, and every week I see him just playing with a new tool, and he's like, oh, this one's rubbish, or this one's super interesting. Or if I was into creating movies, I'd be, working with Sora more. So depending on your field, I think just keep an eye on the tools that are popping up and just to start using them, and also integrating them in your workflow, and hopefully being more productive as a result.
So we have hardly any time left. We can talk for hours probably. So this is from the BCG survey. 90% of the women see Gen AI as crucial for their career growth. Probably the same for men, but only 35 feel prepared to use it. So lo and behold, you don't need any skills. So do feel prepared, because everybody is prepared. So that's basically my comment here. So I had this slide, and also we can talk and discuss for hours. I have discussed with Melanie. So you have the masculine energy, the left brain logic on the left-hand side. That's Melanie. And feminine energy, the right brain intuition on the right-hand side. That could be a very creative person. But yeah, basically some final comments here, Melanie, before we go to Q&A.
Oh, Martijn, you want to finish on this one? Because I would rather rename the masculine and feminine energy, because it really conforms to gender stereotypes, which I think are generally forced upon us.
Yeah.
But if we think about them and left as yellow and red, just some completely random things instead.
Yeah.
I think we've had software. I think we've had AI implemented using what you're calling there masculine energy. All of our planning tools have been built around that. Now that we've never used that right brain intuition, feeling, creativity, if we'd brought in that diversity of thought into designing all this software, would we have completely different tools right now? And I'm quoting someone from one of our Boom webinars on that one, and I find that a fascinating concept. So think about what we think is a standard software for supply chain. It's all that left-hand column.
Yeah.
If you actually had brought in that right hand to be part of that diversity of thought, and that's really what I want to, we're running out of time, but I really want to bring that diversity of thought into the design of the AI. Think how much better we could be planning right now. Yeah. All of the software might be completely different if you'd had a truly diverse team in terms of gender, age, whatever it is. We could, the supply chain could look completely different right now. And that's, I've got 1 minute. Okay, I haven't got time. I need to share with Ella. Get diversity of thought into people designing the tech. We need that.
Yeah.
Ella.
Ella, final remark on your side?
No, we actually had a bit of that problem in-house, right? We have a 4-male tech team at the moment, and obviously looking to always hire more women. And with our DPPs, our digital product passports, we didn't think that people would want to work on them together, like 2 people in a team, right? So we didn't think about the collaborative approach, because we only had masculine energy in that team. And now obviously we're building tools to help people, work on a DPP together. But yeah, I think that's just a prime example of what Melanie's saying. What would our software look like if it was built by equal and diverse teams? I'm excited for the day it is, honestly.
So we have only less than a minute left. A lot of questions, too many. So people, you have to join us in the virtual lounge right after this. But Melanie, in your research studies, have CEOs made a link between AI adoption and financial resources?
AI, I haven't seen anything around that yet. Ella?
Professor Carlos Cardon is doing interviews with CEOs about how they are looking at supply chain and that kind of stuff. And basically, the major finding is that CEOs have a major belief in AI, probably that will solve a lot of problems. So they will have financial resources for it. The problem is what Carlos said, that supply chain have to sell AI to the board that it's needed in supply chain and not in marketing, in finance or IT. So I think that's the point. So I know, but based on the survey from Carlos Cardon of IMD Business School, that yes, CEOs are making resources available financially for AI. But the thing is that supply chain should claim it and to say, okay, why should we invest it in supply chain and not in marketing? Ella, what is your take on that?
Well, I was just going to encourage Maria Veludo to come join us in the, in the room afterwards.
Yeah. There are too many questions, Yeah.
I can skim over a few of hers.
No. You will get the questions and the persons who asked them anyway tomorrow. So we will get there. So right after this, I will wrap up this webinar. Well, you should have another hour, but anyway, I will wrap up, and we will be sitting in the lounge at table 1. So join us over there. There's way more information. We have checklist. There's the results of AI done by Boom. There's also an interesting ebook by Minespider. And well, this is the theme for International Women's Day this year. So so that's coming Saturday. But the nicest thing I think is that both Melanie and Ella and also Maria Villablanca will be in Amsterdam at our Innovate Supply Chain event. So there will be a live session of this over there in a nice big movie theater, like you see. So please join us over there. So you see it here. So that will be a cool thing. Ella, I would like to thank you for your participation.
Thank you so much.
And Melanie, also thank you for participating.
Always a pleasure. Thanks, Martijn.
And the audience watching the recording or live, thank you for joining and thank you for all the questions. We will get back to you, but there's not enough time. Hopefully you have the time right after this to join us in the virtual lounge, and we'll be sitting at table 1, and I hope to see you there. If not, maybe I see you in Amsterdam, May 14, or maybe I see you another time in Webinar Wednesday. Thanks for now. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
All right.